Okay, good morning. We are on day 3 of the Q20. The title of our session is 2D and 3D animation. We are Thursday, 15 September 2022. This is a small bio of mine, and I invite you to go through it after. I will now move to the subject of the day, animation, or as I like to call it, the illusion of life. Okay, here you have an example of a portfolio, a work I've done sometimes ago. Before going into the main subject, I want to talk about why do you animate, for example. I've stated create a virtual identity. I will invite you to what this with today's world going more and more digital, it's very useful to be able to do animations. It's very easy when you want to share a message or invite people to understand something. Just deliver them the message in a very nice way, and you will attract a lot of people. That's why I'm sitting here to captivate the viewer. For example, this animation I've done, deliver complicated message. With your animations, you can express what you want with visible images, not just by talking abstract concepts, but actually showing them what you really mean, what you have in mind when you are talking about that. And also with our social medias of today, you can reach a very large public just with your WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on. Now, let's move on to the main subject. As I'm saying, let's get started. The requirement for this course, I've been asked, you know what is PowerPoint, you know how to place your text, place images. It's already a lot to start this session. The methodology of my presentation, I will go through my PowerPoint, and then after that, you will go through two of my softwares, and you will understand what I want you to understand. The procedure, I've identified throughout my, let's say, my experience, small experience, I've identified some patterns using different kind of animation softwares. And today I'm not going to use the conventional way of teaching animation, not like starting, but I will introduce you to the general world of animation softwares in a way that no matter where you go, no matter which animation software you see, you will already be conversant with it. So my aim at the end of this, I'm going already to the objectives. My aim at the end of this session is that no matter the software you take, you will at least know what you have in front of you. Let's see, if you remember right now when I was showing the work I've done, it can seem bulky. You are seeing too much things on your screen. You don't know what is what. But already at the end of this session, you'll be able to be very conversant with no matter the software within. At least I hope I will reach my objectives. So this is the outline of my presentation. I will start by frames of text manipulation tool softwares. I hope it will be enough to meet my objectives. Let's start with the frames in time.
Okay.
Traditionally, animation is what? It's just animation is just a quick succession of images, giving you the illusion that things are actually moving, but what you are seeing is just a succession of quick images going in front of you. But as the difference between each of them is very small, you will think that the things are moving. Here you have the decomposition of this movement you are seeing on your left. On your left, you are seeing the movement on the left, and you are seeing the decomposition of the movement on the right. Now, each of these images have been put together with the required amount of time, and the result is given you here. Usually, the time we use for the exposure of each images is usually 1/24 seconds, and it appears like that, and you have this result. Here you have another example. For example, you have somebody walking, and here you have the decomposition of his movements, and all of them put together will give you the illusion that your guy is actually walking. I hope you really understand what I'm saying, what I'm talking about when I'm saying succession of images. Now, that is the traditional concept of animation. But software is a little bit, those things I'm talking about, they are an idea about that. You'll see that when we will get into the software, all of this will make a lot of sense. So let's start with the concept of object. We have first images here. Imagine that you have 3 images, this one, 4 images, and this one. We all use images every day in our PowerPoints, on WhatsApp and everything. So it's not something too strange to think about. So let's say that you have these 4 images like that. Imagine you are in PowerPoint and they are initially at their positions here, and you displace them to create this final result, the KEW knowledge exchange, this thing. You see that you have just used your images and dragged them along to fit where you want them to be. And that is the concept of images. Actually, in the animation software, they are like objects that the animation software will manipulate to reach what you want to reach. That is the first one. The second concept, also very important, is the concept of layers. Here, there is a small animation also showing you what I have in mind when I'm talking about layers. It's like you have invisible sheet of papers on which you are writing different things. When you put now these different sheets all together, it will give you a result, because on each of these invisible sheet of papers, you have something written. The end result will be something different from it. So I think with this one, you are already seeing what I'm trying to express, right? It's an interactive course, so feel free to stop me if I'm going too fast or if I'm not making sense. I hope the concept of layer is not tricky for you. I will move on now to the manipulation tools. This is, let's say, this is 70%. This slide actually is 70% of what we have to do today. So I invite you to really try to understand as much as possible what I'm going to talk about on this specific slide. The manipulation tools. We talk about images, layers. There are different kind of objects in software. So we have different other different objects depending on the subject, depending on the software. All of them are different, but all of them are subject to the manipulation tool I'm going to talk about. The drag tool, if you, as I was saying, if you already know PowerPoint, you know that when you put an image on your slide, you can move it to the position you want. That is the drag tool. You can drag it wherever you want. That is the first one. The scale tool. With the scale tool, you can manipulate, you can control the size of your object, make it bigger, make it smaller. It's also a very important tool. And then the rotation tool. The rotation, just change the angle of what you want to change and so on. Those 3 tools, they seem, it can sound banal, like it seems simple, but actually just with these things, you will be surprised by what you will achieve today. So I hope till now I've not lost anybody. The drag tool, you drag your object, you control the size, big, small, and the rotation tool, you control the angle of your objects, right? Let's move on now. Here I have shown you a small list of softwares that will be very easy for you after this session. Each of them, they have their strengths, they have their weaknesses, but all of them, they have the concepts, they include the subjects I'm going to talk about, the manipulation tools, the object, the images, and so on. You have the links here to download the first one and the second one. This one is free, the Blender one is free. The Moho actually is not free. The Moho is not free. You have to pay. For the others, most of them are not free. But let's talk about that later. And I want to take advantage of this point to tell you that with during this course, you will not really need to follow me on the software, because I'm not going to teach you a specific software, but I will teach you the general concept of how animation software works. So it will be even complicated if you had the software and actually I'm doing something, you want to do the same thing, I have to come back to correct you and come back. I feel like it will be more complicated than if you get the general meaning of how animation software works. So let's move on. Now, after the manipulation tools, the drag, rotate, and scale, I want you also to retain these three things: the viewport or workspace, the layers or outliner, and the timeline. Those three things, what do they mean? So when you open your animation softwares, you always, no matter which one you open, you always have the viewport where all of your, what will appear at the end, where you already see it on your software. Then you have the layers or the outline. It is a small list you have usually at the right or at the left of your viewport, and where you have a list of all the objects you are actually manipulating in your viewport. And then down, usually it's always down, you have the timeline. The timeline is very, very important, and I put it in red with the word keyframes because I will come back to it later. Now here I'm giving you the first example. This is a interface for Adobe Animate. It's also an animation software. You see that white space? It's what I was calling the viewport. On your right, okay, your left there, you will see a small tab, a rectangular vertical tab in your right. And there is a word there, assets. So what I was calling objects, they are calling it assets. But actually, it's the same thing. All the objects you are manipulating in your viewport, they will be listed in this panel here. And down here, you have the timeline. The timeline is here. If I go too far, you will be lost. So think about this. In all the animation software, most of them, if not all, you will always have your viewport where your work is done, where you will see your result, where you will see what you are doing. You will see a list of the objects you are manipulating, and down you will see your timeline. I will give you a new example. This is After Effects. After Effects also is a very powerful software which gives with videos also. Even if almost all the animation software deals with videos, you have here your viewport. You can manipulate your images, videos, text, and all of them. You have here the list of your assets or objects, and here you have your timeline. I will move to another one. Here you have 3D Max Studio. You also have your viewport. You will have a list of your objects here, and you will have definitely a timeline. You will have other tools for other parameters and everything, but as you are beginners, this is already a lot for you. The viewport, the assets or outliner, and the timeline. Now, I'm done with my presentation. I go to the main subject, which is animation, right? Now I will take you through first the 2D as the program was taking. I'll go to the Yes, now I will share the screen for the animation, the 2D animation. Yes? Yes. What about the Okay, I've talked about the viewport, the outliner, and the timeline. And I'm saying that I was talking about the viewport, the outliner, and the timeline. You have others. For example, the software I'm going to use, you have the toolbar, the taskbar, the color bar, something. But as you are beginners, you will see that these three are already in enough for you to start. And I will repeat my objectives of the session. I want, when I will be done here, when you open your animation software, at least you already know what is this, so you feel more comfortable to already do some small stuff. And if you are already conversant as beginner like that with your software, then you can move forward. You can now ask yourself, what is this? He did not talk about it, and you go to look for it. But actually, there are so many things. For example, the 3D software, the lighting, just the lighting or the modeling, it can take you a whole 6 months to learn. So don't really think about what you don't know. What I will teach you today will already be enough to do some practical designs. Okay. Now I was saying we will practice, right? Let me open my 2D animation software. This is the second one I was talking about, the Moho. Yes. Yeah. I will do 2D and 3D. So for the 2D, this one is the one I'm much more expert in. So definitely I'm going to use it. And for the 3D now, I use the Blender. But actually, I told you in the beginning that both of them can do both of the works. Like this is mainly for 2D, but actually you can do some practical 3D designs. But it's very easy to do 2D with it. That's why I'm going to use it for 2D. And the other one, Blender, is mostly for 3D, but they have recently improved it in a way that it can do amazing 2D animations also. Okay, so let's move on. Now I've created a new file, and what I will invite you to see is that here, this one flying around, it's written here layers. And as I was stating, okay, yeah. 1 minute, I will try to share the screen for our online viewers to also follow us. I think it's okay now, right? Okay. This one flying around, it's written here layers. And it is the one I was talking about. Here you'll have a list of all the objects you are manipulating in your software. In big here, white with the blue rectangle, you have the viewports where you will see all the objects you are manipulating. And plus to that, the blue rectangle is showing you what your output will be. Like. The space here is infinite, but I want the result is just what is appearing within the blue rectangle that will be in my end up result, my end video, right? Down here, you can see the timeline. You can see your timeline, and I will now talk about what I was saying when I said timeline was very important and keyframes. First of all, we talked about objects and we talked about images or layers and everything. In this particular software, I will add a new object, which is a text, which is the text. It can seem like where is it coming from or something like that, but actually it's very easy. If you have an image in your files, a normal image, you just have to drag it and you put it on the software. It will appear just like this one, and you will be able to manipulate it, right? Now I will go to the manipulation tools. This one is, consider it as object, being image or layer or everything I was talking about. So consider it as your software, your animation object. You see that I'm modifying the position. Actually, I'm using the drag. Okay, let me choose different colors to make it more visible. You were asking about other comments, right? I just used another comment to change the color, but I don't want you to really bother about that. Think about just the manipulation tools I'm talking about. The first one is the drag. You see that I'm changing the positions as I want. I can put it up, I can put it down, I can put it out of the box where I want, right? That one is a drag tool. The second tool we talked about was the scale tool. I can scale it to the very interesting feature. You can scale it vertically like this, you see, or you can scale it you can scale it horizontally or vertically. You just do whatever you have in mind and it's okay. So the last tool was the rotation. You see, I can rotate it as much as I want. I still get the same result. And also, as I was saying, that this is 2D, but it can do some pretty good 3D things also. You see that I can also rotate it with respect to other axes, not just in my plane. Like it can be rotating around the vertical axis, you see. I think we have gone through all the manipulate, change the size and the rotation, change the angle. Now I'll talk about the concept of timeline. It's very, let's say now that I want to animate this thing. The result I want to get is what? The result I want to get is what? I want my text, the knowledge exchange week, to be initially here, and as time going on, it will end up down here. What do I do? Yes. Both of them are okay. Most built-in, so they can edit text and you will manipulate your text in it. But you can also have it. I have it as image and import it. Here it's because, okay, look at this. You see this one? It's an image. You see, it's a normal image, right? Right. Okay. I just drag it. You see, and put it in my software. You will see that it's here, and I can manipulate it as I want. To show you that images also are animation objects and you can manipulate it as much as I want, just like other objects of the software. The software includes very different types of objects like audio, images, video, text, image sequences, groups, but all of the objects usually respect those three main tools, which are drag, rotate, and scale. So, okay, as I have my image now, let's do the practice with that image. I was saying that the end result I want to get is that that image to end up down. Initially, basically, traditionally, animation, how is it done? If I want to get that result, I will draw that image up, and then on the second frame, I will draw. When I say frame, it is like the following image. I say succession of images, right? And on the following frame, I will draw it a little bit down, on the following a little bit down, and then when I put all of them together now, you have the reason that it's going down, but actually I've drawn each of these images. What the software does now to facilitate the thing is that you just have to go to the time. If you look here, I will go to frame 1. It's written 1 here. I go to frame 1 and I memorize the position. By clicking on it, I've memorized the position of my object. And then I go to another frame, frame 48, for example. Frame 48, and now I move it to the position I want it to be, you see? And I'm done. That's the plus with animation software. You don't have to redraw each of the frames. You just state what you want initially, what you want at the end, and you let the software do the calculation of where that it has to be along the time. You see, just by stating at frame 1, I want it to be up. At frame 48, I want it to be down. I'm getting this result. You see. And as you know about dv, dt, dx, dt, if I vary the time, like I shorten the time, the speed will increase, right? So let's say that the end, where I put it at the end, I tell him that no, I don't want him to be there at frame 48, but I want him to be there already at frame 24. I've decreased the time, so the speed now will decrease. And with just those basic tools, we just use the drag tool with the timeline, and you see already what you can create, right? Let's do another example with now the scale, the scale one. I have my knowledge exchange week written here. Let's say now at frame 48, where the animation of the letter finishes, the knowledge exchange weeks comes here. You see, at frame 24, the animation of my image is already done. I've placed now the knowledge exchange week there. And I'm telling him that at frame one, still be at that position. Still be at that position with your actual scale. At frame 24 now, you are also at that position, but now with a bigger scale. I'm just doing random things. I don't have any specific objectives. So now, as the image of that E is going down, the text will be taking more and more space, and you have your end up result like something like this. I've used what? I've used the drag tool and I've used the scale tool, and I'm already achieving something like this. You see, with just those three tools, you can do pretty nice designs. Okay, we have used the, you say? Yes, yes. Offline, yes. Actually, I'm offline. I'm online for the Zoom, but it doesn't require internet to work. Yes, online software also have it, but this one is when you don't have when you have not paid, you have the trial version. You can do all of these things, but the problem is that when you are exporting, they will add their watermark, they will sign on it, and it's annoying sometimes. You want to do something interesting, they put their. But with the full version now, you will not have anything written on your thing. We've used the drag and the scale. I hope it's clear for you. The name of the software is Moho, M-O-H-O. M-O-H-O, it's okay? It's okay, okay. Now, let's say now I want to use the rotation tool. After animating, we have reached this result. So I will now come back to my image. I'm just doing some random things. Let's say now I come to my image and I use the rotation tool. Now I want it to rotate Okay. I've been informed that we have 5 minutes before the Zoom will shut down. So I'll try to finish the rotation tool, and when we come back, we will try some specific designs also in 3D. Okay, as I was saying, now at frame 30, I'm at frame 30 and I've memorized the rotation position, the angle of the image that is. I will go now to frame 42, and now I will change that angle. You see, I've changed that angle. Now I will play my animation. You see what you get just by manipulating your angles, or even I will do it to be, I will make it a little bit more interesting. Just by manipulating the angle, you are getting some interesting results, as you can see. And with this already, you can do some good introduction to your channel, to your events or something, just with those three basic tools, the drag, the rotate, and the scale. They are very important, and no matter the animation software you go in, you will definitely meet them. So after this session, what will you do? As soon as you install a program, just look at where is the drag tool, where is the rotation tool, because it can vary where they are, but actually they will definitely be there. where they are in this software, where they are in this software. My 5 minutes, am I still in time? I think. So now we have gone through most of what we had to do in the 2D animations. And if we come back to the PPT, online, is the screen showing? If you come to the PPT, you will see that with the animation you have on your right, actually, okay, you have an example of what you can achieve with just those basic tools I've taught you. And it depends now on your creativity to design what you want to design. So we'll break now and we will start back in 5 minutes with the 3D. Now they will have improved it. Basically, they can. Okay, as I was saying, this is Blender. It's a free software. You can have it online. And okay, let's get started. When you open first your Blender software, this is what you see. You see this huge in here. You have the timeline. As I was saying, on all animation software, the timeline will definitely be there. And on your right here, you have the outliner, the list of the materials you have in your viewport. You can see a cube, a camera, and a light. And you will see in the list that you have the names of all these things. If I was to add other stuff like a, a cone, you will see in the list that it's updated. Each time I add something, I have it appearing here, right? Now, if you remember also for the 2D software, we had a blue line, a blue rectangle, and I said that at the end, the results will be your video, the result of your work will be what you have inside that blue rectangle, right? In the 3D here, you have a camera, and what the camera is seeing will actually be your end result. And you can move your camera along like if you were in reality. You drag it just like other objects, because here he also is an object of the software. I can drag it to where I want to place it. I can rotate it just like any object in here, right? So now let's add some objects of this 3D software. I will add a text. Somebody was talking about how do I get the text, and I see most of animation software, they have powerful editing and a word editing built-in apps. So I can edit my text as much as I want. As we are doing the knowledge eccentric, I will go for a knowledge eccentric. It can seem strange that I'm not talking about how I'm adding the object, how I'm manipulating them, because I don't want you to think about that. I want you just to think about the basic works, how the animations works. And I'm still repeating the drag, the rotate, and the scale tools. That's what I want you to understand. And also to be conversant with the viewport, the outliner, and the timeline. I hope with the small example we are doing, you are getting it. So now I've added this object. It is a text, and you will see that it's kind of on the floor. So I will rotate it with respect to the x-axis. I will rotate it and it will go up like this. So now you will see that it's here, right? Now I have my camera here. You see that the camera is actually showing somewhere else, right? I'll use what? I'll use my drag tool. the one I was talking about, to drag my camera where I want it to be. And I just got an idea. This is the initial position of my camera, and I memorize it on frame 1 of my animation. You'll see something appear in a point here. It means that I've memorized this position of my camera. Now I will just go to, I can navigate in my software. For now, don't think about that. Think it's natural. You can also navigate. So initially, this is my position of the position of my camera. And I go to frame 80, for example, and I drag my camera to another position like this, and I memorize it also. If you have clearly understood what we have done previously in the 2D animation, if position 1, at another position 80, I'm at another position, what will the software do? It will now animate the camera. Initially, he was with you, and the end result will be what? You will see this. You see? Here, I've not manipulated the object, but I've manipulated the camera itself, and you are getting this result. I think it's quite interesting also, right? And it's like that most of them works. You can also manipulate. Let's say that after the yes, go. Okay. So now let's say that right now you and me, we agree that you understand how I've achieved this result. The camera being dragged along to students. You and me, we agree that you understand it, right? Your question is relating to a whole new subject, which is rendering. In both 2D and 3D, the concept of rendering exists. And the rendering is just getting output. So now there is a whole new layer for the rendering. Like you will manipulate here, you will manipulate the dimensions of your output video, you will manipulate the quality, you will manipulate how many frames in 1 second. And after choosing all these parameters, you click on render. And when you start the rendering now, it will render the animation. But actually, that's not what I would like to do. I would just like you to understand how to manipulate your objects in your 3D. And then if you successfully achieve that, you can manipulate it as much as you want. You will see that the software will not be dark for you. Like you open something like this, bulky, you see different parameters, you don't know what is going on. You just say, oh, let me leave it. But now, already with this session, you can identify the viewport, you know what it is. You can identify the timeline, you know why it's there, and you can identify your objects and you know how to manipulate them. I think it's already making you more comfortable in your software, right? At least that's what I want to achieve. So now let's come back on track. I was saying we have achieved this small animation. We have our object and the camera dragged along to show it. Now I can use another tool. Somebody to propose a tool to me. You have seen drag, rotate, scale. Just choose some random and we will use it to see. Asan, choose one. Yes, no matter the one. The rotation. Okay, let's say now you want to rotate, right? Okay. I hope you understand how the 3D world is. I have my object. It's just like say the rotation, and I've thought about the object is here, the camera is there, and I will rotate the camera like this so that it will show the back. You see, right now it's showing like the front of the knowledge exchange. Now I made it in a way that it will end up at the back. So I will memorize the position at frame 85, the position of my camera at frame 85. And then I will manipulate it I will manipulate it to end up somewhere else. You see, you have seen how I've rotated it, right? Okay, now I memorize the last position, and it can give some strange things, but I will not fix it for now. Now, first, the camera is dragged along, then it's rotated. The time is a little bit short, that's why it is that fast. I will increase the time. It was at frame 90 something. I'll put it at frame 140. And then now that the time is very long, you will see that the camera is rotating to give some pretty bulky animation. But at least you see that we can manipulate it along the time as much as we want. We can rotate it, do whatever we want, right? Now that we have gone through the basic tools, yes? Yes, the first position where you want it to start and where you want it to end up. And meanwhile, if you want to add other position, let's say that initially he was here and I want it to end up here, it will do that. But meanwhile, if I say, okay, during it, at when you are halftime, go here, the result will be what? You will do this and count this. You just memorize the position you want him to reach, and the software will do the interpolations and everything. I can do something like this, like this. Somebody can do it like this, depending on the small breaks you have inserted. And now I think with this, we have seen all the tools that the my presentation was containing. And here, I want to be asked to analyze this. I want us to analyze the K, the E, and the W. I've used scale animation. They were initially flat. I've used the scale to put them at a dimension 0. And throughout the time, I've increased the dimension of the E like this, the K like this, and the W also like this. The two lines, I've initially put them at different position out of my blue rectangle, and time going on, I've just dragged them to come back in the screen. And then this one, I initially put it very long, like the scale. I scaled it horizontally, and then time going on, I've just decreased the dimensions, and I've got this result. You see that it's still our basic tools, right? Now for this 3D one, I've put my, yes? Okay, the bubbles, just think about it like I drawn bubbles and I'm dragging them one by one. Okay, which one? This one? Okay, before going here, I will analyze this one a little bit. Okay, before going to the end, let's analyze this one a little bit. The K, the first one, the K, I've animated in a way that it will just rotate like this, rotate back and come back to normal position. And then I've moved in the time to do the same thing with the E and the W. So they are basically doing the same thing, but with different timing. And the knowledge exchange week is just, I just dragged it from down to up. And all these manipulations at the right times will give you the illusion of something very nice. But actually, it's those tools I'm teaching you that I've used for all of this. I hope it's making sense to you, right? Okay. Your screen is sharing. Okay. It's okay now. These are the two animations I've done in 2D and in 3D with the tools I've taught you today. And if I hope you have followed me correctly, and if that's the case, when you will now be in front of the software, I hope you will be able to also manipulate those objects as I'm doing. For the modeling, the creation, the importation of the objects now, you will have to go through it a little bit. It's not in one day that you will become expert, but I welcome you to the amazing world of animation, where we transform imagination into reality. Thank you. This is the end of my session. And if you have any question, I'll be very, very glad to answer. Yes. For the softwares, I've shared the links, right? I've shared the links. And for the tutorials, I have some interesting ones. But on YouTube, you can find very, very good courses. But at least I think now you will not be afraid of the softwares. You will start going through them and explore. Every day I go on my software, I just try something foolish and I end up with new knowledges, and that's it. Just go in it and just be digging. You will definitely find interesting things. Thank you for your attention. I think, okay. Yes, you wanted to ask a question. That's exactly the question of Longman, and I was talking about the rendering. It's also a very important indeed aspect, but I did not want to include it here because you see, I just finished at some seconds before my time. But it's also, if you want to learn, you have tutorials and everything. I can copy almost of them. Yes. He asked, okay, now that we have worked in our software, we have got these amazing things moving around. How will I put it in my PowerPoint or share it to my social media? And I was saying that this, what is asking is called rendering. Rendering, and it has, yes, and it is a brand new thing to teach. I did not want to add it in my presentation here because of the time, but if you want to learn it, you have tutorials online, and you have also. Okay. Okay, we are getting some, yes, questions. Mhm. Mhm. Yes, you can do it. Like you want to share, it's like you have worked on the PowerPoint and you want to share the PowerPoint itself. Yes, it becomes just a file, just like a Word file or a PowerPoint file. You copy it where you want to copy it. As soon as I finish working and I click on save, it will ask me save where, save as, you put your name, the name you want, and then you can have it as a file. You send it on WhatsApp or on your Flash. Okay, we are having questions from online people. By the way, what is the aim of the animation? Okay, I started with it. I was saying if you animate, it can be helpful when you have like online. Fatusa talked about yesterday when you have an enterprise and you want to you want people to reach you online. You can create a pretty nice animation. As soon as I see it, I'm interested. I don't know the message actually, but because of the beauty of the thing, I take my time, 1 or 2 minutes, just to look at it. And now I discover that, okay, this society is doing this or this. I think already with that, you can say that animation is a pretty interesting thing to learn, right? Also, I think with our courses, it can be very interesting when you have something, an animation with, let's say, for example, I want to explain the person moving and then something increasing, like maybe the shaking of the container is increasing also. At least you have an idea of what the teacher has in mind, not just he's talking through like wind turbine. Okay, next, how long can one spend to design a complete animation? It depends on the animation. For example, right now in front of you, within 5 minutes, we did some animations, and it can be what you want to do, and in 5 minutes you are done. But it also can take 8 years. I've watched an animation movie. When I went to read about it, they said that it took them 8 years. to reach that level. And when you see the thing, you know it's worth it. Yes, it was very, very great. Yes, yes. The sounds. Okay, voices. In softwares, just think about audios like objects too. You can import them and manipulate them, cut them, do whatever you want to with them also. Just consider them as being some objects, just like text, images, or video.
Okay, if there is, I want to thank you guys for your attention. And this presentation today was very, very interesting. Of course, it was very nice. I want to thank our brother for this knowledge he has impacted on us today. And we hope that he will give us more time to explain to us or to teach us animation, because this one is just preamble. The way I'm seeing things is just introduction. So we are hoping subsequent time will give us some time, and then we'll go through animation in details by the grace of God. So I want to thank you very much. So tomorrow again, we'll continue with budget analysis and proposal writing. At the same time, we thank you very much for your attention. God bless us all.